Shabbat Shalom. This past week with our, this is the time when you can take a break. This past week I was with our third graders in their religious school and with their parents. And I had the chance to reflect with them on the idea of being different. Being different. We gathered in Bender, just the social hall where we're going to have lunch in just a few minutes, in Bender right there. It was a Sunday morning, and it was one of those intergenerational programs that we do in the religious school. So we're sitting around these tables, and it was quite an adorable way to sit, I think, with big human, big human, little human, all the way around the table with parents and the third graders. And our task at hand was to make Mezuzot. The kids, we gathered, the kids were looking longingly at the craft table where all the supplies were already sorted and stacked. But first, I led 10 minutes of discussion before we got our hands dirty. And I took a big swing, because why not? We're all gathered together. I wanted us to frame Mezuzot in the context of a lesson that we must all learn throughout our lives, and is particularly relevant for Jewish people, for us since October. To learn to be proud of who we are, including, and sometimes especially, when we're different from our neighbors. I asked the group, if someone were walking down the street and they saw your house, how would they know that a Jewish family lives here? Oh, I already see some hands, and there were hands that morning too. So I'm going to share some of what they answered. So we had some answers right away. We could have a menorah in the window. That was from an explosion of freckles in the corner. A great kid. Someone else answered, we could have a light-up dreidel. That was from a girl leaning a little mischievously on the back of her mother's chair. We could have a light-up dreidel. And then if we got the answer that, of course, they knew I was waiting for, which was, we could have a mezuzah. And that right answer, or one of the right answers, was from a boy who was sweetly showing off in front of his tagging along little brother. If I'm being hopeful, we were all excited and proud to be Jewish that morning. If you saw those 50 mezuzot fashioned from finger-smudgy clay, colors as wild as their wiggly hearts, I think you would be proud too. You would be hopeful too. And if that image doesn't loosen a tear, imagine in the next few days 50 new mezuzot hanging 4 feet high in homes across Montgomery County. Mezuzah cases, like the ones we made that morning, are made to hold small scrolls of parchment covered in Torah verses, penned in calligraphy exactly like the Torah scrolls we were reading from this morning. The text of the Shema goes inside, including the original mitzvah for having a mezuzah in the first place, that we should inscribe these words on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitacha uvisharecha. The mezuzah is a ritual item whose very purpose is to display our Jewishness in an outwardly, so that, just like the question I asked them that morning, someone walking down the street knows that a Jewish family lives in this home. We are supposed to be noticeable. We are supposed to be different. And we should be proud. In the parsha that we read this morning, the Torah instructs, Kedoshim tihiyu. You should be holy, for I, your God, am holy. We are supposed to be holy. How do we do that? We do that by following the code of laws that will be given to us not only in today's parsha, but in the whole Torah itself. Our Israelite ancestors who received these laws were different. In a world that worshiped multiple gods, they were fiercely monotheistic. They made sacrifices in the temple to their one God, to our one God. They kept Shabbat and Kashrut according to the Torah. Being different also means living by an ethical code. Leave food for the poor, the corners of our fields and the fallen fruit of our vineyards. Do not steal. Do not defraud. Do not lie. Pay workers timely wages. Make fair decisions. Do not insult the deaf or place a stumbling block before the blind. Love your fellow as yourself. Do not hold a grudge. Show deference for the old. Honor your parents. To our modern ears, some of these laws of Leviticus sound like universal and familiar values. But in the context of the ancient Near East, they were specific to us and they made us stand out as separate. And when we keep them today, we ground ourselves in our tradition from the inside out. The Torah urges us to draw attention outwardly to our Jewishness. But what if that attention frightens us? I saw some nodding. In the first days after October 7th, a member of our community shared with me that their family decided to take down their mezuzah from the front of their home. Of course, I respect their decision, and I did then, because only they can know what's right for their family, but it was an intense experience to listen. When they told me, I could imagine it happening. I could imagine wedging a hammer to pull off the nail that probably had been there for a long time, and the tension that would build, and that the nail would eventually pop out, and this tiny box would start to fall down. Inside would be this tiny Torah scroll, like a Torah scroll. And just like when someone stumbles with the Torah, that gasp, oh my God, the Torah fell, or it would, God forbid. I almost felt that gasp too, imagining their mezuzah falling from their door. When I think of these two mezuzah stories together, the third graders making the craft mezuzot and this family who took theirs down, the joy of making a mezuzah matches the sorrow of taking one down. In both stories, identity is in flux. The third graders, who are exploring and excited and proud to be Jewish in this outward way, to bring home their mezuzot and to put them up, and the other family is figuring out how to protect themselves in a complicated and a changing world. Whether we're proud, whether we're afraid, we're doing the work of learning and wrestling with ourselves. And this is work that we have always been called on to do, this internal work, to navigate our difference as Jews. For a long time, since we were the peculiar ones who worshiped one God, since we were the people of the book who kept the old laws and the old ways, since we refused to follow the teachings of a popular prophet born in Bethlehem, we were different. Since we weren't welcome in the country clubs of Bethesda, in the homes of Chevy Chase, or in the law firms of DC, we were different. We were kadoshim. Today, our people are confronting that difference in a new way. Our young people are facing growing anti-Jewish hatred on our college campuses to a level that I have not seen in my lifetime. And our adults too. Last Shabbat, we heard a member of our community, Jody Rabhan, speak so movingly about her experience at the National Council of Jewish Women. She shared, please ask her for the longer version, but just a short version. She shared that since October, the people she's worked with for decades, some of them have stopped reaching out, and some of them have stopped returning her calls, and some of them have even refused to work together at all anymore. Most of us were shocked to hear this at first, and then not so shocked after thinking about it. We know that there are those who believe that Israel, and that includes the state and Israelis in Israel and Jews worldwide, and all supporters of Israel, that we are on the wrong side of history. And this stance against us is at times really one-dimensional and hateful and painful and so loud. And this external conflict could really take up all the oxygen in any room. But we have internal work to do on our own Judaism. And that work is just as important as the external conflict. Both of them are important. So I invite us back to the third grade Mezuzah conversation. If someone were walking down the street and came upon my house, your house, any of our houses who are Jewish, how would they know that a Jewish family lives in that house? If someone met each of us, how would they know that we're Jewish? Put up a mezuzah. And if you want, a light-up dreidel. That's great too. Do it. Wear a head covering, a star, or a pin. When we are comfortable with our Jewishness from the inside, we express it much more easily and more authentically on the outside. Just as those third graders sculpted their glowing Jewish pride in all that colorful clay, we must also make our own kind of mezuzot. If we took them down since October, we also have to literally or figuratively hammer them back in, and we have to mean it. That same Sunday after religious school, I updated the mezuzah in my office. I rolled that small scroll tightly and slid it into a brand new, handmade by me, bright blue mezuzah. And before I put it up, I took a moment to take in the teachings of our Torah, which are inside me always too. And I lifted my arms to the doorpost of my office right there. I lifted my arms, striving to be holy and striving to be different. Shabbat Shalom. Baruch Tiyah.